A woman who has been divorced 3 times finally comes to realize that the man she truly loves is actually her very first boyfriend, yet in order to make him come back to her, she goes so far as to collude with the police to frame him, hoping to keep her ex firmly under her control. That ex-boyfriend's name is Tenma. A brilliant surgeon, not only is his medical skill exceptional, he is also genuinely kind-hearted. 9 years ago, Tenma was forced to choose between saving a young boy and saving the mayor. He chose to operate on the boy, who had been brought to the hospital first. As a result, the mayor died. Because of this, Tenma was dismissed by his future father-in-law, who also happened to be the hospital director. His girlfriend left him as well, and threw herself into another man's arms. At the time, Tenma merely vented in front of the boy, complaining that the director cared only about profit and showed no concern for the lives of other patients. But what he never imagined was that just days later, the boy would brutally murder the director, along with 2 other doctors, and over the next 9 years, that same boy went on to kill 4 different couples who had adopted him. When they met again, the boy, now known as Johan, shot Tenma's patient dead right in front of him. He then openly confessed all the crimes he had committed over the years, holding nothing back from Tenma. Only then did Tenma realize that by saving 1 life, he had indirectly caused many more deaths. He had unleashed a monster. Tenma immediately sought out Inspector Lunge and told him everything Johan had done over the years, but Lunge believed that Johan had been only 8 years old back then and could not possibly have had the capacity to commit murder. In truth, Lunge had always suspected Tenma. He believed that after being dismissed by the director, Tenma had harbored resentment and carried out the killings himself. After leaving, Tenma fell into utter despair. He decided that he would capture Johan with his own hands as a way to redeem himself. And so Tenma began his search for Johan, but in a vast city, finding a single person was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Moreover, all 4 couples who had adopted Johan and his sister had been murdered. The only thing Tenma could do was question the neighbors of those 4 families. Soon, he learned a shocking truth. Every time Johan was adopted, he took on a different name. In fact, even Johan might not have been his real name. Just as Tenma was at his wit's end, an elderly man who lived alone upstairs called out to him. The man was a veteran of World War II. Although he was blind, he had a vivid memory of Johan. He had once adopted Johan himself and taught him English and various skills. The topic that fascinated Johan the most was the old man's stories of combat on the battlefield. Once, the submarine the old man served on was pursued by enemy forces. With no other choice, they descended to a depth of 120 meters beneath the sea. The hull creaked under the immense pressure, and they constantly faced the threat of being crushed to death. After 38 long hours submerged, the submarine finally escaped the enemy's pursuit. Most children who hear such a story would be captivated by the thrill of the adventure, but Johan, instead, was fascinated by the fear the soldiers endured during those 38 hours. He was curious about the struggle and despair people felt when facing death. The old man said that when he told Johan this story, even though he could not see, he could sense it clearly. Johan's face was filled with enjoyment. Perhaps it was precisely because the man was blind that Johan ultimately chose not to kill him. The old man also mentioned a doctor named Tenma whom Johan had spoken of. In Johan's heart, Tenma was his second father, second only to his biological sister, Anna. Tenma suddenly recalled that 9 years ago, Johan's younger sister had also been admitted to the hospital, so he decided to search for Anna first. The old man said that Anna was in Heidelberg, because Johan had once said that he would go and get her when she turned 20. Tenma immediately set off for Heidelberg. There, he sought out Mauer, the head of a newspaper office. Tenma told him about Johan's murders and hoped Mauer could provide newspapers from past years to help track Johan's trail. But Mauer did not believe a word he said. He simply led Tenma to the archive room and told him to look through the papers himself. Early the next morning, Mauer assumed Tenma had already left. Instead, he discovered that Tenma had searched through the entire night and had even collapsed in the archive room. Only then did Mauer realize that what Tenma said the night before was likely true. After waking Tenma, Mauer treated him to breakfast, and once the meal was over, Mauer took the initiative to help Tenma continue searching through the records. At this moment, Tenma came across a news report. 9 years ago, the Fortner couple had adopted a pair of twin siblings. However, just a few months later, the boys suddenly disappeared. After they reported it to the police, no clues were ever found. After hearing this, Mauer also began searching for additional leads. According to what Tenma had said, Johan would come to take his sister away on her 20th birthday, judging by the date in the news report. That birthday was only a few days away, which likely meant that in a few days, the Fortners would be silenced by Johan. So Tenma and Mauer drove overnight to the Fortner couple's home. Along the way, Mauer recalled something else. He said that back when he was a reporter, he had once investigated a murdered couple, and based on how brutally bloody the crime scene was, Mauer felt that the killer had taken pleasure in killing itself. Before long, the two arrived at the Fortners' house. Mr. Fortner told them that today was Anna's birthday. The family had originally planned to celebrate together, but after receiving an email, she had left the house, and she still had not returned. Tenma immediately realized that the sender of the email had to be Johan. Seeing this, Mauer quickly handed the car keys to Tenma. He stayed behind to protect the Fortner couple. After Tenma left, the three of them went inside the house. Mauer planned to call the police first, and then explain everything to the Fortners, but to his surprise, the phone line had already been cut. Meanwhile, on the other side, Anna was waiting for the person who had sent her the letter. In fact, Anna had no memories from before the age of 10. Her current name was Nina Fortner. She did not remember Johan at all, nor did she know that she was not the Fortners' biological daughter. The only reason she came to this meeting was because that mysterious person had been emailing her every day, asking her to come to Heidelberg on the night of her 20th birthday. But after waiting for a long time, no one showed up, so Anna decided to leave. At that moment, a man disguised as a gardener appeared. It was obvious that this man was one of Johan's accomplices. He told Anna that no matter what, she had to stay there and keep waiting. Anna turned and ran. By sheer coincidence, she ran straight into Tenma, who was rushing toward her. Tenma had no time to explain. He immediately tried to take Anna away, but the man charged at them with a knife and instantly knocked Tenma to the ground. At that critical moment, Anna effortlessly subdued the attacker. The two then hurriedly drove back to the Fortner couple's house. Along the way, Tenma told Anna about what had happened 9 years ago and explained that she was actually the Fortners' adopted daughter. Upon hearing this, Anna felt a sharp pain surge through her head. At that instant, she sensed memories flooding back into her mind. Before long, they returned to the Fortners' home, but the moment they pushed open the door, the air was filled with a thick stench of blood. They were horrified to find that the Fortner couple and Mauer had all been brutally murdered. As a doctor, Tenma immediately checked their pupils, but in the end, he had arrived too late. All three had died from massive blood loss. Looking at Mauer, who had died because of him, Tenma broke down in tears. He picked up the cigarettes Mauer loved to smoke and placed one gently between his lips. Tenma swore that he would find Johan and make him pay for his crimes. At that moment, Anna seemed to remember everything and revealed a shocking truth. She said that 9 years ago, she had once killed him. Tenma suddenly recalled that when Anna had been brought to the hospital back then, she kept repeating the words, "I killed him." It turned out that the him she was referring to was Johan. Just then, 2 police officers arrived and began examining the crime scene. They then drove Tenma and Anna back toward the police station. However, the officers drove the car onto the highway instead. Tenma immediately sensed that something was wrong because the police station was located downtown. At that moment, Tenma also remembered that the phone line at the Fortners' house had been cut. Since no one had called the police, that meant these 2 men were not real officers. Tenma began to suspect that they were also Johan's accomplices. Just as Tenma was thinking of an excuse to get out of the car, a patrol car ahead happened to stop traffic for inspection. To Tenma's surprise, the 2 men really were police officers, but Tenma still did not trust them, so he found an excuse and got out of the car with Anna. The 2 officers then asked, "Dr. Tenma, is something wrong?" Tenma instantly realized that something was definitely off, because he had only told them his name and never mentioned his profession. So how did they know he was a doctor? Without hesitation, Tenma grabbed Anna and jumped off the bridge. The next day, the 2 of them had already reached the riverbank. Tenma bought food and clean clothes for Anna, but Anna had no appetite at all, because she had remembered everything. Back then, their parents had taken her and Johan and fled to the city. One night, for reasons unknown, Johan suddenly shot and killed their biological parents. Seeing this, Anna quietly picked up the gun and aimed it at Johan, but what shocked her was that Johan smiled at her and said that after pulling the trigger, she should remember to throw the gun out the window. and that she must aim right at the exact center of his head. Only then would killing feel truly exhilarating. In the end, Anna missed her shot, and Dr. Tenma actually managed to save Johan's life. Watching Anna kneeling on the ground, sobbing in agony, Tenma once again fell into deep self-blame. If he hadn't saved Johan back then, the Fortner couple, who had raised Anna for more than 10 years, would not have been murdered. Mauer would not have died either. But now that things had come this far, the only way forward was to pull himself together and face it. After that, Tenma went to the police station to report the case, but the place was already surrounded by reporters. They were covering the 2 murder cases from the night before. The other victim was the man who had threatened Anna that night. After Anna subdued him, she had tied him up with the tie around Tenma's neck. Then they left, but shortly after they were gone, that man was killed by someone else. Not long after, Inspector Lunge found Tenma's tie at the crime scene. In fact, Lunge had been secretly investigating Tenma all along. He had always suspected that Tenma was the one who killed the hospital director years ago. While the reporters were still interviewing people, the 2 police officers from the previous night appeared again. Tenma immediately realized that they were very likely moles Johan had planted inside the police force. Sensing danger, Tenma hurried away, but when he returned to the cabin, Anna was gone. She had left behind 2 hamburgers and a letter. In the letter, Anna wrote that none of this was Tenma's fault. He had only fulfilled his duty as a doctor. Anna hoped that Tenma would continue to use his extraordinary medical skills to save more lives. It was hard to imagine how many hardships a 20-year-old girl with no parents would face stepping into society alone, not to mention being hunted by her deranged older brother. This only made Tenma feel even more guilty. The next day, he boarded a train and left Heidelberg, carrying Anna's wish with him. He returned to the hospital to heal and save lives once more. Meanwhile, Tenma's ex-girlfriend Eva had never stopped thinking about him all these years. Over the past 10 years, Eva had gone through 3 divorces and split a large amount of property. Now she spent her days drunk and hollow inside her luxurious mansion, but every time she got drunk, she missed Tenma terribly. At this time, Inspector Lunge came to see her. Lunge told her that a murder had recently occurred in Heidelberg, and he suspected it was committed by the same killer who had murdered Eva's father years ago. At the crime scene, he had found a tie. After investigating, Lunge discovered that the high-end tie had been custom-made by Eva, so he suspected that the tie had been specially made for Tenma. He kept subtly guiding Eva to admit that the tie belonged to Tenma. Eva quickly saw through his intention. She froze for a moment, then said that over the years, she had given ties to countless men, and she couldn't remember anymore. Seeing this, Lunge left in anger, throwing out a few harsh words before storming off. Only then did Eva breathe a sigh of relief. After that, she immediately ordered the chauffeur to prepare the car. She was going to the hospital to find Tenma. 10 years later, the 2 met again. Eva didn't say much. She only recalled the night she had dumped Tenma. That night, she threw their engagement ring to the ground and turned away into another man's arms. Eva said that over the past 10 years, she had gone through 3 marriages, and only now did she finally realize that the only person who truly loved her was Tenma. She wanted to reconcile with him and return to how things once were, but Tenma refused without hesitation and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, Eva used the tie as leverage against him. She promised that as long as they got back together, she would help him keep the secret. Tenma still walked away. Eva stood there, trembling with rage. Immediately afterward, she went straight to Inspector Lunge and told him that the tie belonged to Tenma. On the other side, Tenma submitted his resignation to the hospital. He was worried about Anna, and he also wanted to continue tracking Johan. But just after Tenma left, several police cars arrived at the hospital. Lunge had finally found his chance to arrest Tenma, but when the police rushed inside to look for him, all the patients stood in the hallways, blocking the way. They refused to believe that a doctor like Tenma could be a murderer, because their lives had all been saved by his hands. Seeing this, Lunge didn't dare force his way through, and because of that, Tenma was given the chance to escape. The ambulance driver, even at the risk of punishment, helped Tenma flee. As he walked out the hospital doors, Tenma looked back at the place where he had struggled for decades, his eyes filled with reluctance. From this day on, the Dr. Tenma, who had once saved countless lives with his own hands, would become a fugitive wanted for murder. In the blink of an eye, 5 months passed. In a small town in Germany, A driver was taking Tenma to his destination. The driver casually chatted about the famous surgeon recently placed on the wanted list. He had no idea that the fugitive he was talking about was sitting right beside him. After months on the run, Tenma had become unkempt and utterly worn down. He now looked nothing like the man shown in the newspapers. He even carried a loaded handgun tucked against his chest. And so, the man who had once saved countless lives as a brilliant doctor, ultimately embarked on the road of a fugitive.